Thank you very much for the opportunity today to present. Some people on here will have seen this before through other contacts and networking groups that we belong to, but it's essentially the essence to any good business. And in my experience, the way to make money, first off, is to keep good records, because you actually don't know what you're making unless you record it properly. So what I'm going to do today is just share my screen, show you a piece of software that we use. It has been mentioned by Dominic already as an integration to the software there. It's called Xero, spelled with an X. And it's a really effective piece of software that allows businesses to keep really good records. So essentially, there are three parts to every good set of records. So you've got sales, you've got stuff that you buy, costs, and you've got your bank account. Obviously, there are bits and pieces around that, like wages, but essentially we pay wages, so that goes through the bank. So and other complexities, but they're the three main things. And lots of businesses get hung up with this, but what I'm going to show you very quickly, and given 10 minutes, it doesn't give you a long time, but we do offer in a one-to-one consultation, free consultation for people that want to explore the software a bit deeper and get a bit more out of it. So hopefully everyone can see this screen here. This is a demo company, so I've not actually gone on here and got any live data from a client, but there's a fair amount of data on there. So remember what I said, there are three sections to any good set of records, and to keep them effectively, the first point is sales. So when you get a customer, effectively you put them on here as a contact. Now, I'm not going to go on there and put everyone on as a contact, because as Dominic said, if you're using Dominic's system and it's integrated into this, those contact details, I would assume, I'll get a nod from Dominic if that's okay, would be integrated into here. So the contact details would already be on there. So effectively we raise an invoice on here, or potentially from another system and import it in. But I'll assume for the moment that whilst we've got some integration with a CRM or something like that, that we're going to be raising the invoices from here. So again, to raise an invoice, it is just plus and raise an invoice on the system that's working pretty slow today. It's normally really quick. Hey.
It slows down with your screen sharing. We have first-hand experience of this.
Right. Well, I need to speak a bit slower then. Okay. So raising an invoice is fairly simple. I mean, it's pretty much the same as most accounting systems. Like I say, if the contact details are in there, you only need to start to type them in, and it brings them all up. If it's set up correctly, all the due dates will be in there. We suggest keeping those standardized, so people are used to paying on a particular due date. If it's 7 days, 14 days, we can put that up in the settings, so that would automatically come up in here. For example, we can put on this different products. So from perhaps Mark Commentary's point of view, he may have standard sort of services that he uses. So obviously, this wouldn't be one of yours, but let's just assume it was. But there may be something that's maybe a bit more unusual that you're putting on there. And that is basically the first part of keeping the good record. So that's keeping a sales invoice. So if we approve that, we can send that from the software here. Job done. So part one of 3 done and dusted. Okay, so like I say, we would approve that, and that would go through as a sales invoice, recorded as a sales invoice, and we have the ability to send as a standard sort of email. We do customize these with clients, because you don't want it sounding like it's coming from an accountant. You want it to sound like it's coming from a human being instead. So we would try and customize that so it's a bit more person friendly. So that covers off the first part. The second part, we recommend a piece of software called Receipt Bank, which pretty basically you take a picture of a receipt, magical trickery happens, and it pulls all the details that you need, supplier details, the cost, the VAT, what it's for, and pops it straight into this software here. as a bill to pay. Now, I'm not going to get hung up on how that happens. Like I say, it's as far as I'm concerned, it's magical trickery, but it would appear in here as an entry. Okay, so we don't have to retype them in. And just in here, where you see that little page there will be a 1 or a 2, depending on how many pages are in there. You would click on that and you can view the invoice. So gone are the days where we have our lofts are full, 7 years worth of invoices, you know, Bowen loft, and you know, where we have to keep them, all the shed that you want to set light to. But we can actually leave them on here. There's no obligation to keep paper records nowadays. So that will be your cost sorted. And then if you get those 2 bits right and you do them really effectively, it makes the third, which was your bank account, really easy to reconcile. Reconcile is just a complicated word, an accountant's word, that says point stuff in the right direction. Okay, so the way to reconcile or point stuff in the right direction is to go onto the reconcile button. And what happens here is we can link this software to your bank. So we can't make any entries onto your bank account, but it pulls all the transactions in from the bank account. And like I say, we have to reconcile or point them in the right direction. And to make that easy, what the software assumes is if there's money coming in from Ridgeway University, and we've raised a sales invoice for them for that same amount, it's asking us, would we like to reconcile them? Now, we can say no and make things hard for ourselves, or we can just say yes, and that would be an entry done. Equally, if there are cost invoices in here, and we've got one there, and we've actually made a payment, that would reconcile as well. If you're using a bookkeeper or an accountant or something like that, then you can put some notes in here for them. We get a lot of notes. Oh, I don't know where to post this, so can you please sort it out? And it might be something a bit unusual that they've paid for. Equally, we have recurring entries, so you might have bank charges. Now, this software gets intelligent, so if you post something to Barclays, for a couple of months, it will assume that anything else that's paid to Barclays is bank charges. Okay. Equally, we can set up something called rules. So here a rule has been applied. So anything that's paid to 7-Eleven goes to a particular nominal code. So where that works really well is things like insurance. So you pay your insurance on a monthly basis to what comes to mind, Hiscox. You would put in a rule here. So again, create a bank rule, and we would just put in here under the conditions anything that contains Hiscox would be posted to insurance. And if we okay that, literally every entry that has anything to do with Hiscox goes to insurance, and we press that OK button on the reconciliation. So that is a very quick whistle stop tour of accounting, what small businesses need to do. There's a lot more to it than that, which is mainly what you get out at the other end in terms of reports. So many businesses don't know what profits they're making. It's a bit of a sin, really, because if you don't know the score, you don't know the winners from the losers. So how can we run a business that way? But what you can do here is very quickly bring up a profit and loss account. Now, okay, is it going to be 100% correct? Probably not. Would you want your accountant to have a look at it? Yes, you probably would, because what we tend to find is there's a lot in general expenses because people don't know where to put things. So that, you end up with 10 grand in general expenses, which the revenue love, because you submit a tax return with that and they immediately write you saying, can we have an analysis of general expenses, please? And open up an investigation. So we try and avoid that. But the bottom line is we can work out a profit position very, very quickly, which is the main reason for keeping good records, not for HMRC. It's for ourselves as business owners. So, like I said, we offer a free consultation. I'll stop sharing that now. Unfortunately, get me again. So yeah, we offer a free consultation to businesses to show them this software in a bit more detail, if and only we feel it's relevant to them. There are other pieces of software out there that we can advise on, QuickBooks, there's dozens. And if we feel one would be more relevant, or they've got a piece of CRM that they're using that wouldn't integrate with Xero, which is unlikely, then we would push them that way. There is something called the marketplace on the Xero website, which if you went on there, there are hundreds and hundreds of other applications that link with Xero very, very effectively and seamlessly. So, if you are using a CRM and you're interested in this software, have a look on the marketplace, make sure that software's on there, and then, you can always give me a buzz and we can arrange a meeting, even if it's via Zoom, to go through in a bit more detail. That your client's requirements. Like I say, happy to speak to anyone on a no commitment, free initial consultation to see if what we do can fit them.
Dominic, I know you had a question for Lee, so please, do you want to go for it?
I can obviously remember it. One sec. Oh yes. So the first thing was just to mention, the best thing in the App Store that we found was the marketplace for Xero was a system called Float for cash flow. Yep. So I just thought I'd make mention of that. It's just phenomenal. It kind of, we were using a really clever spreadsheet before that, but this does much more than we could do. So it uses every piece of information it possibly can in Xero to create a really awesome cash flow. And you can have all sorts of scenarios and a base scenario, and you can try out things. If we employed these 2 people for this project, when would the line go back above profit for that and stuff like that. That's very good. So that was the point.
Yeah. Well, one of the best things about that and other type of systems on the marketplace there that take your sort of accounts to the next level in terms of forecasting and targets is that when you forecast, the biggest pain in the backside is, especially at the moment, we have to be quite dynamic with business. So things could change tomorrow, which upset your business or make it better. And if you want to try and change your forecast on a spreadsheet, that can be a bit faff, to be fair. Whereas what some of these forecasting apps do that link into Xero is when something changes on Xero, it reacts to that information that's on there. So you might increase your workforce, it reacts. You decrease your workforce, it reacts. So you get real-time information as opposed to something that's based on, accounts that are 9 months old, which is traditionally what people used to use. So yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, good point.
And I was going to ask a question as well. So most of the type of businesses that want your services would already have an account system, probably QuickBooks or Sage 50 or something a bit more proprietary. How do you handle, so migration is obviously a part of that. And so I thought it might be worth telling everybody sort of how you'd handle that.
Yeah, sure. So they don't necessarily need to migrate to Xero. What we find is, I do have a handful of clients, dare I say, that still use Sage. There's not many. But it's relevant to them and the way they work. They like it. I don't want to force people to move over to another piece of software they don't need to, and we'll find ways of working with them. So they don't necessarily need to migrate, but you can. Cautionary tale here is migrating from Sage to Xero. I think there could be someone laughing on this call here, but client confidentiality, I can't mention any names.
It was me.
I think there's a free service where they take your Sage data and they chuck it without any care into Xero. I shouldn't really say that's being recorded, but in my opinion, that's what they do. And put rubbish in, get rubbish out. Is what happens there. So we tend to help clients migrate properly. So we would import all their sales or export all their sales invoices from an accounts package and import them into Xero. We would do the same with purchase invoices, do the same with the bank transactions, and then potentially re-reconcile them, depending on how many years they need to go back. But just caution with any free services that sort of tell you that they will literally take your information from Sage or another package and put it into Xero or any other package, and it will look exactly the same, because it never happens. It never happens. But yeah, Ian was laughing there. But yeah, that not a fun moment, but these things happen.
Just as a sort of indicator, I know there's probably a lot of things that go into the mix, but what's the sort of subscription cost and what's it based on for Xero?
Yeah, so Xero, the sort of the middle of the range package, think there's 3 packages. Most people go on to the sort of £25 a month plus VAT for the sort of the middle package, which doesn't necessarily include foreign currency transactions, although some people do that, which I think is a few pounds more, might be £28 plus VAT top end really. There are add-ons, so some people do their own payroll, and there's a few other add-ons that are sort of £5 here, £5 there, but primarily most businesses will get by on the £25 plus VAT subscription. When we price our services, there's no one size fits all, so we go through all the services that a client might require. If they require Xero, we add that in to our services, so they're only paying one bill essentially. So but yeah, that's a rough idea of the cost if people were going to subscribe directly.
That's something else which you might want to explain, because I can't. I know roughly what it does. So our accountants have got extra access to our system to log in to do stuff like year end and stuff.
Yep.
That's about the limit of what I understand, but I know it's a great benefit to me. So I thought you might want to mention how that works.
Sure.
I'm sure you do that. So,
well, during the 10-minute breakout there, I was speaking to Mark Coventry, and I said one of our clients needed me to have a look at something, and one of my passions is scuba diving. I was lucky enough to be in the Maldives. So I'd been diving, and then that evening the client contacted me, asked me to have a look at something. So I managed to look at that from the middle of the Indian Ocean. So if you can do it from there, you can do it from anywhere. Okay, so we have a lot of calls where we're using Zoom calls to just go through things with clients. You know, maybe it's they submit their own VAT returns, or there's something they do periodically, but it's not something they do every day. So, you know, they sleep in between, so they forget how to do it. So we can just jump on there and show them how to do it. Equally with year-end accounts, we just get the nod from clients to say everything's reconciled, and we can just extract the data without bothering the client to produce the year-end accounts from the data on Xero. What tends to happen then is that we do our jiggery pokery. This is the secret that no accountant's going to tell you. Well, it's no real secret, really. It's just trying to maximize your expenses to ensure that you're lowest tax bill as possible. And we make the entries for the client on Xero, so they are working from the same data we're working from all the time. Okay, thank you.
Just a real quick question, Lee.
Yep.
On the what's really interesting, I think, is using the receipt bank as well, so that everything's online. You don't have to keep paper copies. What's the security of the system? Where does that information get held?
I'm not going to fool you there. I'm not sure. Okay. I'm not sure. I can find out for you, but I'm not sure. Let's be honest. There are risk elements to any business, and I'm not particularly worried whether someone can get hold of my Tesco receipt that I bought some red pens. Okay, there's not that much data on a purchase or sales invoice, really, realistically speaking. There could be some bank details on there if you're sending them out, but you know, there are risks, and I can't tell you to take their risk or not. But we have had clients that are obsessed with sort of data protection. They were in some sort of insurance industry, so like brokerage or something, and they asked a lot of questions. We pointed them to Receipt Bank and Xero, and they ended up signing up for it, so they were quite happy. So it is secure. The way I look at things is they invest a lot more than we do on their IT systems, so they will have rooms or buildings of servers that are totally protected. Whereas we've got one PC sitting at home or in an office. You might have a server in the office that you'll spend £1,000 a year protecting.
Yeah. No.
So my view is quite simplistic, really. Outsource the risk to someone else and let them worry about it. And let's be honest, if you lost your purchase invoices on Receipt Bank, it wouldn't be the end of the world, because when it imports them onto Xero, a copy's on Xero as well anyway. So you
got double backing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That was more the point I was making, was, you know, what happens if the data gets lost. But yeah, this answered 2 points there, which is really good. Thank you.
A quick Google around the internet on that one while you were talking, John, was to find out that Xero actually hosts on Amazon Web Services.
Oh, right.
So, yeah. So very, very heavily backed up.
Yeah.
Okay. Well recovered, Graham. Thank you very much for that.
Sorry, guys, I've got to drop
Maria.
out.
Hi. Yes, please. Just wanted to ask you. It's the second time I listened to a presentation.
Yep.
Here, and I learned something new again. Do you do master classes on it or something?
Well, what we do, when a client signs up, we give them training. Now, it's always incorporated in our fees anyway. If it's a client that, well, if it's a business that's not an existing client of ours, what we would do is try and customize training, because most people know how to raise a sales invoice on a system. If I was giving someone, if it's quite a small business, very simple business, half an hour, and they've got it nailed, no problems whatsoever. If there's integrations, that can, take a bit longer, but generally speaking, small businesses, half an hour on a Zoom call, everything that you need to know. We then kind of find that 6 months later, they might want to start building in budgets. So there are facilities on there to build in budgets. So they might need a little bit more training there. But we customize our training, because what I don't want to do is teach someone to raise a sales invoice and have them sitting there for 15 minutes when they know how to do that. So it's totally customized training for clients.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Lee. That was very good presentation, and yeah, very good product. So I'd encourage you all to have a chat with Lee, have a one-to-one.
Yeah. Are you saying that because of where they're from?
Sorry?
Are you saying that because of where Xero is from?
Oh, I wasn't going to mention that, but...
Oh, I bet you weren't.
Can I add to that? Our lead developer, Russell Briggs, by the way, was one of the senior developers at Xero.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And he left about, there was a year that he left, and then he worked for the New Zealand government, and then he came to work for us.
Right.
There's a bit of a nod to Xero.
There you go.